Hey guys, give everybody a few minutes to get in here and then we will get started. Hey, how are you? Good. Wait a few minutes. Hello, I've got sheets here, guys.
I gotta get close so I can see if we have anything going on the big screen.
Don't worry. Everything that's on the screen will all be on there.
Awesome, thank you.
Right. Hey guys, I'm going to do a share screen. So anybody who's on Zoom, please just unmute yourself and shout out any questions. It's not easy for me to talk, look at the PowerPoint. I don't know why this printed the time like that. That's weird. And then watch the chat. So when you guys put messages in the chat, I promise you, I won't see it. So just unmute yourself and ask your questions. So, all right, lots to go over. So it's 10:01. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and whoever else joins us can hop right in. All right. So a couple of things. I'm going to start with this before we jump into this actual schedule. So when I was at Glover, we went over lots of great content. And as we did that Glover 10 things we learned at Glover a couple of weeks ago, I had said we're going to pull different individual things out of that class because there was just so much stuff that there's no way we could do it in one class. So I'm going to be pieces parting it throughout months. We'll do one here and one there. And so I thought this one was pretty relevant. Now, it's a little different than the usual time blocking class that I do. I like to switch it up because some of you have been in coaching for a while and you're sick of hearing the same class over and over again. So I'm always putting a little twist on it. Normally, when we do a time blocking class, we talk about, would you mind shutting that door? We talk about Google Calendar or using some type of some people still like the paper calendar kind of a thing, or whatever calendar you use. I don't know, even if you weren't in business, how you could go about your week and your day without, a calendar of some sort. I mean, I'm literally one of those people who still has a calendar hanging in my kitchen that has appointments written on it for things that I need to know personally that are still on my Google Calendar. And I still take notes, and I like having checklists and to-dos and stuff as well. So normally when I do the time blocking class, we talk a lot about the Google Calendar. Maria, there's 2 pages there that you'll want. And guys, for those of you on Zoom, I will upload this calendar into the Google Drive if I haven't already. I don't know that I did or not, but I will get that in there as well. So one, let's start with, you should have a calendar, right? 2, one of the things that we talk about, hey, Kim, there's 2 pages here you'll want to grab. Is we talk a lot about using your GPS as a guide for the things that you want to put on your calendar. So I know, especially for brand new people or newer people, or even agents that have been licensed for a while that maybe are dual career, or they're just ready to ramp up their business, really focusing on your GPS and making sure that those strategies on there are actionable items that have a measure to them. So in my mind, when I look at a GPS, I look at those 15 strategies as things that are like on a sticky note that I can just plop on a paper calendar on the wall, right? So as you are thinking about, gosh, what do I do? If this is my part-time job, that's 20 hours a week. If this is my full-time job, this is 40 hours a week. We certainly aren't out showing houses. Even those of us that are full-time in real estate aren't out listing and showing houses 40 hours a week. 20% of our time is spent on appointments. 80% of our time is spent on all the other stuff. And so when you're thinking about what is that other stuff, that's where you want to go depend on your GPS, because you decided when you were doing your goal planning, what were those strategies going to be? And when you take that, you're going to build your calendar from that, right? So today what I'm going to go over, which is the path to 100 transactions. So understanding this, it doesn't mean everyone should be following this, because when we start going over this, it's pretty overwhelming. So what Jeff had told us was that this is what his team does. I don't recall, I think his team sells like 1,000 houses or something like that a year. And I'm not sure how many people he said were on his team. Nonetheless, this is what they do. This is what every member of his team does as an independent agent who probably is required to sell 100 houses on his team, my guess would be. He himself follows this calendar. So it's a pretty intense, full-on day, and you'll see I repeated everything. So what he showed us, and I just kind of turned it into this little generic calendar here because my notes are terrible, my handwriting. So in any case, this is what he said they do every single day, 5 days a week. It doesn't change. There's no modification from it. It doesn't make a difference when an appointment flies in. This is how they build their calendar. Some people were much more rigid about their calendar than others. I would say this, if you're not inclined to follow something, some people are very regimented, that they love having that structure of the same thing every day. I am to some degree, but I also, things come at us in the day, so I'm not coming into an office and working from 9 to 5, and most of you aren't either. So it's a little bit harder when you are bouncing in the office and at home to try to stick to something like this. I would say it's not about, and what he said is, if you're not trying to be on a path to selling 100 houses and you're on a path to selling 50 houses, here's what he said. It's not about cutting this in half. You should still be doing all these same things, but maybe just not as deep and maybe not as long. But these are the things that you should still be spending your time on, even if it is half the houses, right? So we're just gonna start rolling down the calendar and talk about some of these things in detail. But first, and also anyone on the Zoom and people in the in here, tell me what you're using for a calendar. Anyway,
Google Calendar.
Google Calendar. Yeah. I love my Google Calendar. For those of you who aren't using a Google Calendar, the great things about the Google Calendar is one, and I would recommend this, start it on your computer. Don't try to sign up for a Google Calendar on your phone because it looks still a little bit different. It'll connect to your Gmail through your phone. But what I like on the Google Calendar is, one, you can color code it. And I do. I am an organized color coding person. Yeah, I do. And so personal colors could be one thing, appointments could be one thing, trainings could be one thing, so that you can really keep yourself organized that way. And then you can uncheck a color to only see certain things at different times. Like if I want to remove all my personal stuff, I can remove it and then see other things. Another thing really good about Google Calendar is that when someone sends you a invite to an appointment or a meeting, it'll go straight onto your calendar when you say yes. And so, but do this. People tend to send me my invite to my Yahoo email instead of my Gmail email, and it doesn't open up and it doesn't go on the calendar. It has to be through your Gmail, which, by the way, guys, your Keller Williams email is a Gmail. So even though it's at kellerwilliams.com, that's a Gmail product and a Google product, basically. So you can open up classes, anything on our Sunday newsletter that's on there for different events and meetings and classes, that will link right to your calendar.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I love it.
It makes it easy.
I'm using Google Calendar.
Yeah.
I'm trying to force myself more because I used to be a handwritten person.
Yeah.
I do like the color stuff and stuff, but will it do that even if mine's connected to my private Gmail I used to use, like you were, or only if it's KW?
No, you can still merge it.
Okay.
You can still, I don't know how that
Right.
happens, but if someone sends me an invite to my Gmail, that's not my Keller Williams Gmail, if I open it, it's still connected to my calendar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
I use my phone and I also have to have it.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Okay. So when you say you use your phone, what are you using?
Just the
Calendar app?
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
And that's okay
But
too. I think
have
it's
used the
similar.
Google one before for something, and I like the color.
Yeah.
That does help. Easier to see.
It's kind of like this, there's argument with this too. I like my GPS in my car, and my son's like, why do you use that GPS? You should use the GPS maps on your phone. I'm like, you like this, I like that. It's more convenient for me not to have to deal with, I'm on the phone talking. I don't want to deal with
That's true.
the call being, and then the map shrinks and all that
Yeah.
business. So maybe thankfully he's not talking on the phone while he's driving. So that's why he prefers his map. But so I think it's the same. And the main thing here is that you're using something. And even, and I still use, I still write everything down too. I still have things, tasks and things written down. But I do put certain things I have to do, like calls I have to make, I put on my calendar. I would recommend you do this. If you're planning on scheduling calls while you're driving to an appointment, put the phone number on the calendar too, so that you don't have to go hunting for the phone number. I find myself in that situation all the time where I'm driving, like today, I've got a call set up while I'm driving to Solon. And if I didn't put the phone number in my calendar, then I'd have to be like, oh my gosh, where's this person's phone number at? And I want to already just click it when I get in the car and I'm good to go. So that's a little tip there. Anybody on Zoom, can you tell us what kind of calendar you're using? Are you using a calendar?
I was using a paper calendar, but I'm trying to get away from it.
I will tell you, I only started using my Google Calendar maybe 3 years ago. Before that, I was all on paper too. I liked my little planner kind of a thing. I was excited always to get to new one. The problem that I have really bad handwriting, and then I cross things off and it just gets ugly. It just gets ugly and nasty. And then you want to rip out the pages. And I found myself wanting to rewrite stuff because I was adding so much notes and I'm writing notes around the sides and there just isn't enough room and all these other things, especially because I write bad, but I also write large and then it gets crooked for some reason. So my blocks run into each other then.
But didn't you say you have some type of a like electronic tablet?
So now I do. So now I bought something called the Remarkable. If you want to buy one, I would buy the Remarkable too. It just came out and it is an electronic tablet and it writes like on paper. So some people use their iPad and use the pen and there's notes section and there's stuff like that. That's like writing on glass because you are writing on glass. It's not the same. The Remarkable is really like writing on paper and it gives you that sensation like you're still writing on a legal pad. And then you can save them in folders and delete, and it's got a little eraser with the pen. I love it. I've only had it for about 2 weeks.
Like there's notes, but it's too
small. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And what I also like about the Remarkable is I can turn my handwriting into text. And then I can email it to someone or to myself.
That's cool.
So that's really nice. So if I'm giving someone a quick to-do, I can write it in my writing, change it to text so it's not so ugly, and then I can shoot it off as an email. So lots of different ways of keeping yourself, organized. But
Gina, where did you purchase that at?
only place that sells it is Remarkable.
Okay, so you
Yep.
just go on remarkable.com.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I would recommend Remarkable too, and buy the pen with the eraser. The Remarkable is useless without the pencil,
Okay.
and it's twice as much with the eraser, but I highly recommend the eraser
Okay.
for sure. All right.
Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with it.
Oh, did you get one or you saw mine? I know. You did get one?
Yeah, yeah, it finally came.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's, I threw away all my legal pads, which was really hard because I was hanging on to them for a little while. It's kind of like I hoarded my notes, and I put everything in there. It took me like a whole weekend to get all my legal pads into different folders and different note pages in the folders in the Remarkable. And then I was like, I'm just gonna hang on to these for a little bit just to make sure if it all disappeared, I would die.
Yeah.
And I did accidentally erase a whole page. I don't know which page it was. I accidentally hovered. I was trying to hit the erase tab instead of using the pencil because you can draw a box around like a paragraph and hit erase and it erases that box instead of trying to just erase. And I hit the erase page instead of erase the box. So, and unfortunately, I don't even know what page it was. So I had to go back through all my legal pads and find which page it was. Thankfully, I hadn't got rid of it. Anyway, enough about that. for
Yeah.
like an extra week or so. So yes, and then I finally told myself, okay, I'm not gonna make that mistake again. And then I got rid of all my messy legal pads. Like you can have pads for every meeting you go to. I had with Glover, I had bold notes, like just all the different things. So, all right, so let's jump into what this looks like and I'll give you a description. So, Jeff was on stage going over this calendar and he just really wanted us to know this is not any kind of an embellishment. This is what his team is required to do. It's not an option to be on the team. This is what they do. And to be able to sell 100 houses. And he even said, they've tested lots of different things and it doesn't matter what disc personality you have. It doesn't matter what you like to do and what you don't like to do. It didn't matter who the person was. If they followed this, they sold 100 houses. So again, I'm going to preach this again. One of the fabulous things about Keller Williams that is unlike other places, and I know having come from other places, is we're showing you all these systems and models that if you just follow them, 100% work. If it's not working, it's two things. You haven't given enough time. You haven't been doing it consistently, or you're not really doing it. That's the only three ways that it could possibly go wrong. So when someone says I'm at my wit's end, I don't know why I'm not selling enough houses, either you're at the very tip of about to hit success and you just don't know it yet, or you are lying to yourself. It's like saying I've been eating right and I've been going to the gym and I in a year consistently haven't lost 1 pound. Then you either need to go to the doctor because something else is wrong, or you haven't really been doing what you think that you're doing. And we tend to want to lie to ourselves a little tiny bit, which, you know, we all do occasionally as well for lots of things. All right, so let's jump in. So 8 o'clock. And I know a lot of you guys do have scripting and accountability partners, so that's fabulous. For those of you who do not and would like to, and I highly recommend it, I am doing bold, and in bold, we have to have a scripting partner every day that we do accountability conversation and we do a script. And I'm loving it. It's my favorite part of bold right now. It really is.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. Me and Rob from Elevate are scripting partners, and we're coming up with ideas that I wouldn't have. Like, we're not just doing like, let's do this LP Mama script or let's do this commission script. We're talking out different scenarios that are real life things happening, and we're making up a new script as we go. And I'm finding it to be like, oh, I didn't even know I had the idea in my head.
Right.
So give that a whirl too when you
Yeah.
guys are talking with your scripting partner. Come up with the scenario that you're dealing with and script it out. You'll find that the beauty of practicing scripting is that it does get so much easier. And so like even in bold, when we're practicing, like yesterday, we were practicing 2 of the different suggestions. What I do is I glance at what it says and then I make it up myself. That's why it doesn't sound like scripting, because I'm rolling with it how I speak and I'm using it as a guide. It's way harder to script when you're trying to memorize somebody else's words. And that's when the heat's on and you're feeling like, am I saying this right? So I found that if I have an idea of what the script is, then I can just belt it out how I talk, right? And then you can come up with new things and new ideas and things that you didn't know that you could think of, working it out together. So here it starts their day every day at 8 a.m. with role playing and scripting with their accountability partner. Another part of that call should be this question: what would my day look like today at the end of the day that I could say I had a successful day in real estate? So before you jump into your 30-minute script with your scripting partner, you're going to ask the question. So tell me today, Emily, what would today look like at 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. to you to say, check, I had a successful day in real estate. What is that thing? And maybe it's, I want to get 20 people into my database. And maybe it's, I need to get an appointment, or it could be any number of things. Maybe it's like for me today, I just need to get caught up on all the stuff that I didn't get to yesterday because we were in bold and then I had appointments afterwards. So like, it could be anything like that. Maybe it's today, here's that one thing. I'm gonna get a calendar in place. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the one thing I'm gonna do today to start to, it doesn't have to be big stuff, guys. I promise you this, the agents that get in their head with, I have to come up with some big giant thing to do nothing. It could just be one step closer.
I shared with.
Yeah, please.
For me, because I have been reaching out, and I've gotten a lot of rejections. Well, last
Yeah.
night, I was on my way to the grocery store and I saw a house that I knew someone had been working on rehab wise. And
Okay.
it's the first time like I saw a car in front of it. So I was like, I'm not going to the grocery, I'm gonna go over there and ask.
Nice,
Just if
good for
they
you.
would let me list the house.
Yeah.
Anyway, I go up to the door and I find out it's a family renting
Oh,
but they want to look to buy.
oh,
So I gave them my card. It's wild. Only one of them speaks English. They moved here from Brazil.
oh,
But I want to hook him up with, with Jessica
Yeah.
and see what he can get qualified for. And,
yeah,
hopefully.
wow.
And then my
that's
lady
great.
who's been holding off that little, I call them snap at our home, sorry.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, finally she wants to meet tomorrow at 11. So I have that done today. Like I was excited. Those are small
Yeah.
victories, but like I finally have an appointment to list her home tomorrow at 11
That's amazing.
and get everything in order, which I'm gonna use your phone to take pictures if you
Okay,
can.
yeah, he will.
And then this possible buyer. from last night.
Don't downplay yourself when you say small victories. It's a bunch of small victories that lead us to success.
They
It's
were
not
just
one
yeses.
giant. Yeah.
Which for me, I've had like a lot of no's in the past.
So now
couple
you've
weeks.
gotten those out of the way, like, right? We have to get a bunch of no's out of the way to get to the yeses.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of rejection in this field. There just is. I always use the example in particular with internet leads. I imagine in my mind a hallway, I don't know why I think this way, but I do. Maybe I spent too much time in school. I
Yeah.
picture a hallway in a school and I can see 100 people standing on one side of the hallway. And my job is to push them to the other side, which is the rejection side, so that I have a clear vision of the yeses.
Yeah.
I can't see the 5 yeses in the 100 if I don't move the 95 out of my way. That's always how I look at it. So you got a bunch of no's so that you can get to the yeses.
Yeah.
So don't let that
Yeah.
stop you, which it didn't. So great,
Yeah.
good for you. I love
I
that.
have another lady I'm gonna talk to this afternoon who, she moved out of her home. I've known her since I was a kid and her house is empty. She moved into assisted living
Okay.
and her house is there. It's in my neighborhood. So I'm gonna talk to her today.
So lots of good opportunities. If we don't have opportunities, we don't have appointments, right? They're all
Yeah.
potential opportunities. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that 30 minutes is spent on what am I going to do to make my today successful? And it doesn't have to be a long list of things. It could just be whatever that looks like for you. And it's not personal stuff. You can have a personal side to that too, but in business, and then come up with a script. It's a good idea to have an idea going into that call, what script you're going to be working on or topic. If you don't have a scripting partner and you want to have one, go in the chat, guys. That's why we have it, or reach out to Ken. So Ken is the person who's on the ALC, who is in control of the committee, which is accountability. So he will make those connections for you if you're not sure who might want to do that. It may feel weird at first, but it gets more normal as you do it. It starts to feel more comfortable and more natural the more that you do it. And no one's judging. And it might be a good idea too to script with somebody who has a little bit more experience, and don't apologize that you're new. They were once too, next half hour, and you'll see it. This is pretty time. Like, I don't know why when I printed it, the times came out, but for some reason, when I open it, these little weird hashtags come up there. So sorry about that. The times are on this sheet. I don't know. Anyway, so 8:30 is your first round of lead generation calls. I'm sorry, texts. So there's 3 rounds of lead generating you'll find on here. So first round of lead generating, I guess it says call/text.
So basically doing both at that time.
Yep.
Okay.
And these are not strangers. So that means people that you kind of know, whatever. So that goes on until 9:30. So 1 hour of calls and texts. it's a good idea to go into the day knowing who that's going to be. People spend a lot of time wasted on who am I going to call and who am I going to text. So having a plan from the day before. At 9:30 is your second round of lead generating. And that's going to be mass emails and direct messages. And this is to strangers. He's very specific about calling our nurture database isn't lead generating, guys. That's nurturing. That's following up. When I call 5 people that I'm returning their call, or I'm responding to 5 emails to people, like I had 3 this morning, 1 requesting an appointment, that doesn't count. That's already business that I procured. That's not scheduling them a showing on Saturday doesn't count towards my lead generating. Lead generating is new business, not follow-up. There's time in here for follow-up. So mass emails could be a few different things. That could be, if you guys are participating in Boomtown, there's mass emails you can do in there with your top opportunities. You can do mass, emails with those hot sheets, that kind of a thing. Or you can just have your database in command, and you could have created a flyer or some kind of an email invitation, getting an idea. And there's time on here for research. So right now you're like, what would I be sending? We're going to talk about that later down the list. Then on here, this on the screen, guys, says 10 o'clock. So the email and direct messages, that's only 30 minutes long. And let me talk a little bit about direct messages. What he said about direct messages is, you can go on to Facebook to the people that you're friends with, but they're actually still strangers. I mean, we all have, probably half of our social media are actually strangers, but we're friends with them on social media. We don't really ever see their stuff. They may not ever see our stuff. So what he suggested is don't go in your newsfeed and do it. Go into your friends and click on people that you don't normally see their information and direct message them something. And what it could be is something about what you saw on their posts. Where were you on vacation? This looks like a great spot. I'm planning my vacation this summer. Or, oh my gosh, we're thinking about getting another dog. Your dog's so cute. What kind of dog is it? Anything, the content's already there in their post. Scroll till you find something that you can relate to and that you're asking a question about. It's not just commenting. Direct messaging is totally different. By the way, you should be direct messaging happy birthday to anyone that you know, not just commenting on their
Happy
Facebook.
birthday, Kim. Happy birthday.
Yes. Oh, that's right. It is today. I already said that. Yes. Happy birthday. So we should definitely be direct messaging those kinds of things. So that's only 30 minutes. Then we opened up an hour for class. Now, mind you, sometimes class could be at 1 o'clock. Just for this calendar goes, it's at 10. You don't have control over the time that the class is those days. So you're just going to shift. You're going to shift. So then sometimes the classes are an hour like today's class, and sometimes they're longer. So again, you're just going to shift. After the class, you're going to have a mindset break. So a mindset break is 15 minutes long. That's not meant to check emails. That's not meant to catch up on a voicemail. That's still working. It truly is a mindset break. If you're in the office, that's a moment to go step outside and enjoy some fresh air and some sunshine. That's a minute to go run to Starbucks and grab a coffee, whatever. That's your mindset break, right? You need to reset to keep going. At 11:15 is your third round of lead generating. And for this round, you're going to focus on your database. So what are some things that you can think of that you would be doing when you're calling your database? What could be some topics?
Maybe whatever notes you've already put in there about their life.
Yeah.
Family.
So forward.
kids, whatever.
So the forward script, that's what exactly I was looking for.
Okay.
So the forward script, if you haven't talked to them in a while, roll with the forward script. Forward stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. We have that in the drive. And so what you would talk about is, if it's dreams, for example, maybe the last time you talked to them, they had mentioned that they were trying to plan a trip to Italy.
Mhm.
That's dreams. hey, did you ever get that trip planned? That kind of a thing. So that's what that database call could be. Another database call could be an invitation to some kind of event. Anything like that that's relatable. Hey, did you know blah, blah, blah was going on in our community? It's really just a touch, right? So remember this, in your database, you're gonna have touch campaigns set up. So if you have 500 people in your database, and those are SOI, past clients, whatever, you're going to need to call them at least 4 times a year. So that could be, this is not in addition to the touches for your touch campaign. This is the touches. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then at, lost my track. So after your third round, which is 45 minutes long, you're going to have, at noon, you're going to do your lead follow-up. So that's your, hey, Judy, I saw there was this house that came on the market and it looks like it'll work for you. Would you like to see it? I'm available tomorrow at 4 or Saturday at 3. That's your lead follow-up. That's your nurture people. That's a, hey, I wanted to check back in. You said that you weren't ready to list back in December, but we're approaching spring. Just wanted to see if now is the right time. That's a lead follow-up. If you're someone who needs to eat lunch earlier, shift it. You can flop those times. You know what I mean? So any of this is movable. It's not the times of the day that they're doing it that makes them be able to successfully hit 100 transactions. It's that they're doing all the things. So you can play with it, and each day you can play with it too. The only thing I would say I wouldn't play with is your scripting time slot. If I find that with Rob and I, if we don't do it at 8:30, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. We've been really good about it. So like if he's had to reschedule for 2 o'clock, we've done it because we're in bold. But if we weren't, like neither one of us are gonna lie, and I don't want to foul for not doing my scripting. So, and he and I both are the same like that. I'm never gonna just say, yes, we did it when we didn't. So when you're not in bold and you don't have something greater holding you accountable, it's very easy just to say, let's skip today.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that at the same time, plus you're someone else is relying on you too. This isn't your schedule. Now they're relying on you. The only thing I wouldn't ever change would be that time slot. And honestly, you should be doing your accountability call and your scripting in the morning. That's just my opinion, because it gets it out of the way. Because again, as the day goes on, all these time slots start running into each other. And the thing that's going to be pushed out is what you think is not the money-making thing, which by the way, is the money-making thing. So you should get it out of the way as early as possible. And then also, how do you plan your day if you are talking it at 3 o'clock? So, and I'm sorry, guys, for those of you who like to sleep in, I don't know a really successful human being, unless you work a third shift kind of a thing, who sleeps till 10. Like I just said this to my son, successful people wake up at 7 in the morning, not 9. All these people you listen to on all these podcasts and all these things they're talking about, how successful they are, and they're millionaires at 22 years old. I guarantee they weren't sleeping till 9.
Some of them are getting up at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
no.
Finished high school, and he's been waking up at 6 or 5.
It's true. That is true.
On top of the night, the ideal for me. Thanks for having another one. I'm up at 7.
That's right. Yeah, we all have things in our life. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that rigid. We could have we've been traveling and we have to sleep, or any number of things. Yeah, that's right. And I am that knock, knock, knock on his head, not his door. And I'm like, successful people are sitting behind their desk right now studying for your test that you've got scheduled. So let's get moving.
Give an episode of Flipper Flop
Uh-huh.
where they were working with a younger
Mhm.
kid and his mom, and the kid showed up like 11 or 12. And he's like, in this business,
Yeah.
as much as you think you have a lot of like flexible time,
Yes.
you will not be successful if you're not up early in the morning.
Yeah. So much more. And I don't know anyone who says when they go on with their day, I wish I had slept in.
Right.
When I sleep in, I'd be ready.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, I pushed an hour.
I know, right,
It wasn't
exactly.
like-
Yeah, absolutely. The time we could cut is at night.
Yeah.
Not everybody can sleep well, I get it, and that is a thing, but in my house, we're definitely up early. My husband gets up at 4 in the morning and goes to work at 4:30. So we are early, right? I'm not up that early. I'm like, don't even say goodbye.
Right.
You know.
Go on.
All right, so then you, of course, need to block your time for lunch. And you'll see on here where it says, after lead follow-up, it says check and reply to your emails and texts and that kind of a thing. And then you've got a 2-hour lunch social break. And you can shift that around again in that whole lunch hour time slot. And then social would mean like, I'm gonna go to the gym and work out. This is the time, unless you want to be a 5 o'clock in the morning workout person or whatever, that gives you time to do those kinds of things. Admin hour, you know, some of you have leverage where you've got an admin doing that kind of stuff for you, but admin hour would be things like, I need to do my commission and command and my compliance, or I need to do an escrow letter to the title company. And I've got a transaction that's pending and that's admin work, right? So it's paperwork stuff. Or like Kim, I've got to prepare for a listing appointment. So I'm going to put together my loop and I'm the admin kind of stuff, right? We shouldn't be spending our entire day on admin stuff. If we want to make the big bucks as real estate agent, you are not an admin. So you need to do all your admin stuff at one time slot, not a little bit here, a little bit there. We can all get really caught up in our pending transactions and think that it's consumed. I have so many people, and I get it. I used to feel the same way. I used to think when I had 3 pendings that it consumed my entire day. Once it's pending, there's not that much to do. So if the pendings are consuming your day just because you're having conversations about maybe negotiating repairs, or the lender needs this from you, those are things that could be done in a 45-minute time slot. It shouldn't be a little here and a little there. It can wait until your time slot. If it distracts you from what you need to do in your business, then you're not, you know what I mean? You're not, would you go into an ice cream shop and they say, I need to make the ice cream right now? It's already done and it's ready to go. And you know, you're not doing it a little bit here and a little bit there, you know, so any business would run more efficiently that way.
Would you say, planning, organizing, like jotting things in your calendar, organizing yourself, is that admin or that's something?
I mean, you know, from these phone calls, you're going to set appointments. So I don't know that you're going to wait to put that in your calendar. Do you know what I mean? So I think your calendar is fluidly open as you're having conversations with people and otherwise, if you're like me, if I don't put it on my calendar right now, it is gone out of my head. It's not going to happen. So I would say you want to have that, like I put people on speaker all the time and I'm looking at my calendar and I'm typing it in unless I'm in the car. And then I'm voice texting myself some crazy thing that I hope I can read later. To put that appointment in my calendar. Cause again, I can get on with something else and then it's in a week from now, I've totally forgot. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I just was thinking like, okay, so if I'm looking and I have this set as my calendar in the morning, if I want to have an appointment, where will we put that in on the next day? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
things
so
are
you're
lunch, things are
shifting. I mean, so again, this
Whatever works for them and then move
that
stuff.
thing.
Okay,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
However, I mean, I will say this, he said they don't. You'll see at the end here where their appointments are at. He's like, we do this in this order. I'm guessing there's a little bit of high D and OCD-ness going on here. Yeah, but like, he's like, this is how we do it. This is absolutely how we do it. And the only way that his team has something different is when he's preparing for like the Glover U event.
Okay.
And I'm assuming he has certain people that do that and certain people that do this,
Okay.
you know.
So obviously he has 6 PM as listing appointments, so if you
That's
find
right.
a listing appointment, you put it in there. If you had
A buyer.
I see, you just put them in the slots where it is. Okay.
And let's face it, most people work during the day,
Yes.
so there just aren't a lot of showings and listing appointments happening during the day. It's
Yeah.
weekends and evenings,
Yeah,
you
right.
know, like I had someone wants to see a house in Carrollton. And I said, how's Friday at 4 or Saturday at 11?
Oh.
So I know they work during the day.
Right.
So not just for me, that was the time that worked. That was also, I know what would work for them. So there's that. And this, by the way, this is not a 7-day work week, guys. So I know we run into appointments and open houses and stuff on the weekend. But this is what they do to sell 100 houses. That's a lot. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of energy put into that. So keep that in mind. I want you to look at this and say, I'm not doing any of it because it seems crazy. Decide what pieces work for you. So as you see here, also during the admin hour, it's also offers and CMAs. So I'm writing my offer during that time. Now, is that really realistic in our world? If somebody wants to write an offer after we showed them a house at 4, aren't we writing it then? You know, it is what it is. I doubt he tells his people, but I don't know. No, you're not writing the offer until this time slot, especially in our climate with multiple offers. This could just be in the ideal world, what a schedule would look like. But I do know there are some people that are so regimented that they follow this kind of a thing. They just do. Ever go online and look at Elon Musk's calendar? It's online.
Oh, wow.
It's insane. It's 15-minute time blocks, 15-minute time blocks. Like every 15 minutes of his day has totally got something, even personal stuff. And he doesn't, like, he's very, I don't know if it's ADD or OCD or whatever, but he's that, those people tend to be. And
Does he have autism? Is that what I heard? Something over here.
I don't know. I mean, there's
You can be a high intelligent and have.
That's
autism.
right.
They are
regimented. And so he is who he is because he follows that and he's not getting off track. Like
Yeah.
if you Google his calendar, it actually is online and you can see that. Yeah.
Isn't that how Christian does it?
I was just gonna say Christian too.
A sheet,
Yeah.
yeah. 15-minute increments.
It is. And he is on it with
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I mean, he even told us I think I recorded it. He did a class on the day in the life of an agent.
Yeah.
And he even says his alarm clock starts spouting out mathematic equations that he has to solve to get out of bed.
That's like, yes, what?
He has to solve math problems. His alarm is spouting out math problems to get him awake and get his brain moving in the morning first thing.
Oh, my gosh.
I forget how many he says he does, but yeah, like, it's just interesting. I don't need that. I have a lot of energy, no surprise. When I actually wake up, my alarm doesn't tell me when to wake up. Obviously, no one tells me what to do, not even Alexa. So I wake up a half hour before my alarm, always, every day, no matter what. So, anyway, all right. So then 3 o'clock, closings and walkthroughs, inspections, that kind of a thing. That's your hour for that, 3 to 4:30 maybe. And again, those kinds of things can be fluid with how long they could take as well. We can't control certain things. But that's the time slot. And you'll see this runs 5 days a week. So obviously we don't have walkthroughs every day.
Right.
We don't have closings every day, unfortunately. So that's where you can use some of that time elsewhere, right? Maybe that's where your showing goes that day if you don't have a closing or a walkthrough. Sorry, guys, I'll make sure I keep scrolling down for you anybody have any questions on the chat? I mean, on the Zoom?
I had to look it up. It was all expensive. You shared it in Saturday Night Live.
Okay. Yeah, highly functional and obviously very successful. But that's why he sticks to his schedule,
Yeah.
routine. Yeah, for sure. All right. At 4:30, we've got in here content research. So let's talk about that for a minute. So content research could be a few things. Content research time could be, what are we going to script tomorrow? That's content research. What have I been thinking about? What's been happening to me at appointments, or what kind of objections have I been having, or whatever? That's content research. Content research could also be, what script am I going to use when I call strangers and call my database when I'm doing my lead generating? What things are going on that I want to invite people to? What kinds of things, that's that. But also content research is also what am I about to post on social media? So by the way, you'll see the next time slide at 5 o'clock is your social media posting and engagement hour. You shouldn't be coming up with the content at 4:30. You should be creating content for your post that's in a couple of days, not your post in half an hour.
I usually do mine on Sundays.
I do
My
too.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're already ready to go.
Yep. On Saturdays and Sundays, depending on what's going on Saturdays, I work on my calendar for the next week. I work on getting all my posts, even if I'm not ready, like I have to go back and add a few closings to my congratulations to February closers. But it's already ready and I just got to plug in a couple more photos and then it's ready to go. So I definitely do the same thing. All those kinds of things I'm working on. If I need to reserve the conference room or something like that, I'm working on those kinds of things over the weekend. And then of course, as I approach mid-month, I'm planning the calendar for training for the next month, you know? So then I've got to look back at the classes that I've done that are successful. Or how can I tweak it? How can I come, like with this, I implemented this Glover stuff into the time blocking class, blah, blah, blah. So those are the kind of things I tend to do on Sundays also. Then your social media engagement and posting. In like Carl Ann said, but maybe you already did it on Sunday and you've got it preset to go. That's even better. That's ready to go. And then your engagement could be then just commenting on people's posts. Liking is not enough. Commenting with a question is always best. So comment and ask a question, because then it forces them to be engaged back to you. Like, don't we all feel inclined when someone comments on your post to like their comment? We feel rude if we don't like their comment. But if they ask a question, then you feel like you need to. I'll give you an example. My husband and I were out to dinner with Tiffany Pepper. She's another agent here at our office, and her husband the other night. And I was telling her about, we were going to Lala's for my daughter's birthday yesterday, and they have the most amazing charcuterie board at Lala's. It's like I've never seen.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it's humongous, and they've got to be losing money on this damn thing because it's only $40. But anyway, Tiffany commented and said, "Oh my gosh, that charcuterie board looks amazing. Is that the one that you were talking about?" She knows it is. And I
don't have time to respond.
yes, exactly. But she asked a question, and I
Right.
feel compelled to just say yes.
Yeah.
So even in some situation like that, you feel pressured to engage, and that way you can kind of, and even if what they responded to your response doesn't need to go anywhere. It's not to open up conversation about real estate, guys. It's to kick them into the algorithm so that you show up on their posts. That's why you do it. So keep that in mind. The more engagement that you have with people in interacting on Facebook, the more you're going to show up on their algorithm, right? They'll probably show up on ours too, but that's part of it. That's part of the reason. And then 6 p.m. is your listing appointment and or your buyer appointment or whatever that looks like. I wanted to scroll over to Saturdays and Sundays. Here on his schedule, they do an open house every Saturday and every Sunday. So they've got a 1 to 3 open house on Saturday and a 2 to 4 open house on Sunday. And as you can see, just like Carl and I were just talking about, on Sunday evening, plan new week.
Yep.
Let me scroll down to the bottom here if I can get this to go down. All right, so here I put some notes at the bottom that gives you some ideas of what you're doing during those contexts. So during your accountability call, go over the following. Context from the day before. So this is also part of a suggestion for part of your accountability call is if I'm committing to my accountability partner in the short, maybe 10 minutes of the 30-minute scripting, besides what makes my day successful, I'm going to go back tomorrow and say, did I achieve that? Right? So some examples of that were, my goal today was to make 20 contacts. I'm going to report to my accountability partner, did I do that? So from the day before, how many calls did I make? How many responses did I get to the calls, emails, and texts? So that's what you're reporting back to each other. How many appointments did I set the day before? How many contracts did I get signed? Contract signed meaning buyer's agency, listing contract, or something that went under contract. And then number of contacts that I added into my database the previous day. So those are the 4 big things that you want to talk about in your accountability. I think the 4th. Yes, they're on your back of your sheet too. But yes, so they're at the bottom of page 2, and it flips to all the way at the
Oh, gotcha.
in the
Okay,
notes.
perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And then
I have a 4th one that's not here.
it's on the back. I don't know why it did that.
Oh, okay.
But yep, so part of your conversation, and I wouldn't get too caught up, 10 minutes of that conversation. So you speak for 5, they speak for 5, because you want to reserve the other 20 minutes for 10 minutes for you to script, 10 minutes for them to script. Because that 30 minutes can go really fast, especially if you're having any kind of chit chat moment. So try to keep that to a minimum. But that's the stuff that you're wanting to hold. So when you're saying, I want to hold myself accountable, it's like this, I have a partner to go to the gym with, and we're holding each other accountable because we're showing up. And then we're not just standing there in the parking lot chatting for an hour. We're actually going inside and doing something, right? So, this would be that stuff. So if I want to be successful, even if it's not 100 transactions, even if it's 20 transactions or 10, these are still, so understanding this, guys, that content doesn't change. It's not, well, I don't want to sell 100 houses, or I'd like to, but I don't see me ever doing that. So I don't need to add these topics. That's not the case. That's to sell any number of houses. So when you're holding yourself accountable, or you're each other accountable, these are the things that you need to be tracking that you're doing. And then tracking everything, making sure that you are, I would recommend using a spreadsheet, even potentially, who did I talk to? How many calls? Because here's the numbers that you're eventually going to want to know. I put some of this in the chat yesterday from Bold, but you should absolutely know, how many contacts do I need? Because it's different for everybody, to get an appointment. How many appointments do I need to sell a house? You should know that. And so after one solid year in the business, you're going to know, how many houses did I sell? And with that, how much communication did I have to get appointments? How many appointments to get the sales, to be able to then double down on it the next year. And like, what did I do the previous year? Now I want to increase to be able to do more. Questions? We've got about 9 minutes left, so we'll roll into anybody have any questions on that, thoughts? What are they doing? What they think would work? What would not? Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking that spreadsheet, so you just keep that on your own computer.
Excel, just an Excel.
Just use an Excel.
I mean, I'm putting notes in the CRM,
Right.
but it's still a good idea to track this information, not the person's name. And like, I'm not tracking in Excel, client name, phone number, email address, and then the last time I talked to them. That's what you have a CRM for. What I'm tracking on an Excel spreadsheet is, how many phone calls did I make today and this month? Then I can total that out at the end of the year easily. You can have a running calculator on Excel for that. Don't ask me how, but I know people do it.
Yeah.
And then how many buyer agencies did I get signed this week, this month? How many listing appointments did I go on, and how many listing appointments did I take this week, this month? And then, of course, ultimately, then what are my pendings? It's also a great place. I just saw somebody's tracker yesterday, which is what made me think of this. I was like, I may pay you to do one for me, because it was so amazingly done. And she had everything on her Excel spreadsheet, color coded. Listings were yellow, buyers were blue, that kind of thing. So you can totally color code your Excel spreadsheet too. And then she had all of her closed transactions, the client, the date that it went pending, the date that it went sold, the address, the client's name, the client's contact, because then she uses that for her mailings.
Yeah.
And if you put it in the right cells,
Yeah.
you can get those to print onto your address labels. So she uses that same sheet for that. But she also does this. That's what she sends her tax person.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So she's got a lot of great information on there, and she was able to go back to 2018 and show me all her stats, how many closings, who they are, and then year over year, how that looks different. But here's the key. If you start from the beginning, it's not hard.
Right,
Yeah.
true.
Don't
Yeah.
try to go backwards.
Uh-uh.
Start today.
That's kind of
That's
how
not a
mine
good
is set
class.
up, and I
Yeah.
gave it to
That's
my
fine.
tax guy, and he's like, you're the only one that gave me an Excel sheet. I'm like, well, I just have to have it organized.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Could you repeat those for me? You said buyer agencies.
Yep,
like
so-
number
so-
of buyers, listing
so-
appointments.
Tracking, how many calls did I make,
Okay, calls, all right.
or contacts. So
Okay.
we'll justify a contact as call, text, email that you got a response.
Okay,
I mean, and you can do this too. How many contacts made and how many responded? You can break that in half that way too. How many appointments made?
Appointments.
And then how many buyer agencies did I get signed?
Okay,
How many listing appointments taken? So I got the listing.
okay,
And then how many pending transactions?
okay. And then close,
And then of course you're closed.
okay.
And that way, then year over year, you can look at, okay, I closed 25 houses and I went on 120 appointments. And I got 50 under contract to be able to close 25 or whatever that looks like. Because those numbers make, you have to be 20% more.
Right.
Because there's fallout.
Yeah.
So you can get 100 buyer agencies signed and only actually work with 80 people. Perhaps not even
Yeah.
50,
Right.
you know, so you're gonna know your numbers on that and what kinds of things you need to focus on. And then tracking, of course, each individual one.
Thank you.
What else, guys? What other questions do you have? Anybody else on Zoom? Like I said, I'll upload this into the Google Drive too, so that you'll have it. I know you guys have a printed version in here, but for anybody else who wants to take a look at that, I'll have it for you.
Is it possible to see a sample of what an Excel spreadsheet of this looks like?
I mean, it wasn't mine, it was somebody else's. It's my launch coach out at Elevate. I don't know that she would want all her,
Well, I have
Contact
information
them
on
from-
it,
yeah,
to white out a whole lot. I would just like to see the actual.
yeah.
Breakdown of.
That, yeah.
I think what maybe I
um,
can ask her to do is she could probably
And
make a
my template.
copy of the template,
Right.
maybe,
yeah.
and not have it filled
Yeah,
out.
she could
Yeah.
probably copy it and then just.
And then delete
all
all
that.
those.
It's so much, but I can see what we can do, but yeah. I mean, again, when you look at any Excel spreadsheet, you know, you've got columns that you can create yourself. You can stretch those boxes to be anything.
Yeah.
And then you can add color and words and stuff. But yeah, I can see what she might be willing to do for us. But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that's very organized.
Wow.
Is it selling?
Is
Probably
Elevate
8
the one in
years.
Solon? No.
Elevate is in Strongsville, Strongsville /
Okay.
Medina.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, Solon is living.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining.